ICR.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. If you are just joining us here at the Bill and Bob Show, my friend Bill is not here today. Like I said, he had to take care of some stuff to do, so I'll be doing a show on my own. And so, the first topic we talked about before was Chris Borland and him retiring from the league at such a young age, and what it really does for the image of the league. And that's just one thing really that really tarnishes the NFL's reputation. Another thing is obviously the conduct of the players, and there's been another example. There's been a couple examples this offseason. So this offseason's been known for a couple of things. The retirement's one. Well, that's not one, but the frenzy of free agent signings and trades that have occurred. That's number one. That's been by far the biggest storyline of the NFL offseason. Number two has been the retirements, and the third, number three, is the conduct. Now, obviously, the conduct was the main issue of last year's offseason, where we had the sexual assault cases or accusations against Ray Rice, Greg Hardy, and Ray McDonald. And as also the child abuse accusation or the case with Adrian Peterson. This offseason, it's only March. And, the Super Bowl ended, a month and a couple weeks ago. And already, there's been two, conduct cases against NFL players. One of them was against Bernard Pierce. But the major one, this one's been going on for, it also had the one with Warren Sapp, with him soliciting a prostitute during Super Bowl weekend. And now we have this thing with Darren Sharper. Darren Sharper, now this has been going on for a while now. He's been retired for about 5 years. And he's been having this on and off case, and they finally made a decision. From what I've heard, he's going to be serving 5 years. And he could be facing 20. Now, the thing that really bothers me is if you look at what he had, I think he raped about 9 women, had 11 druggings, and all this. And this is really what's, we all know that the American judicial system isn't the best. It's corrupt and everything. And this really just proves it. Because Darren Sharper is a former football player, he had fame, he had money, he only got off with 9 years. Anybody else that would have done this would have been serving 25 to life. I'll tell you that right now. And this also, like with the Chris Borland retirement, this does not look good for the league. If their players just going out there, just sexually assaulting women, or just assaulting women or people in general, And it seems like the NFL has a discipline problem. You don't see NBA players do this. This doesn't happen nearly as much in the NBA or Major League Baseball, or heck, even in the NHL. I don't even follow hockey, like the way I do with other sports, to be honest. And I know for a fact that there aren't nearly as many hockey players that get into this much trouble. And, I think it might have a little bit to do with the scheduling. NBA players and Major League Baseball players, especially in baseball, they play almost every day. So they don't really have a lot of time to actually go out and do things. But if you just look at the off seasons, very rarely do NBA players, basketball players get arrested or, do anything like this. It's just football. Only in the sport of football, even on a college level. In a college level, in basketball, a player might get suspended because of, grades or, something little. But then if it's football, these players, they're going out there raping women, assaulting people, shooting people, carrying unlicensed guns, doing all this stuff, and they're only in college still. When it gets to the NFL, it usually doesn't get better. Look at some of the great players that have had these problems. Ray Lewis, many years ago, early in his career, there was a case where he might have actually killed a person. And people say that he might have done it. He got off free, and he ended up having a Hall of Fame career. This is not anything new for this league. Look at the thing with Plaxico Burress, Michael Vick. I'm not sure Michael Vick, it might have been, with dogfighting, which in my opinion is not as serious as, killing a person or anything like that. But, something about football players and something about their minds that's just different from other athletes. And I think it all boils down to the mindset of a football player. It's all about, being macho. Football is a sport that, is probably the most reliant on being tough and being macho, So they assert their toughness on people, and if people don't like it, then they are the ones that face the consequences, while the NFL players, because they're NFL players and have money, are able to have, lighter sentences and whatever happens. if a normal person could, murder someone, if an NFL player does it, they might face about 15 years. If a person does it, they're gonna face life. One of the few cases might have been Aaron Hernandez, but that's just one. That's like a nail in the haystack. You don't see that happen that often. Usually players don't get that stiff punishments like that. And you know what? This isn't even in the realm of sports anymore. This is just about pure fame. There's the whole O.J. Simpson thing, there's the whole Michael Jackson thing, the R. Kelly thing. It's all about fame. The more famous you are, the lighter your sentence will be. Unless you're the type of person who garnered fame because of a certain crime. But if you're famous already, there's really nothing to worry about, But if you're a common man, common woman, then you're not going to have nearly as much of a shot as having a lighter sentence. And so this really is yet another argument as to why the NFL is tainted. Why the players they need to be more disciplined. People say that NFL players are really disciplined, and people say different things. But the perception is that NFL players are disciplined. They're treated like soldiers in the military, especially during the offseason, their practices. Well, it doesn't seem like that because, of course, there are soldiers in the military who do stuff like this as well. But it obviously doesn't seem like that, considering the fact that the NFL has by far way more players that actually have detrimental conduct than in sports like basketball or leagues like the NBA, Major League Baseball, and so forth. So there's an obvious conduct problem, And also, the NFL doesn't do enough to actually punish these players, Roger Goodell, last season he mentioned that he made a mistake with the Ray Rice verdict, saying that, he should have, given him a stricter punishment. He should have punished them more rather than just, the first 2 games. So he punished them for, I think, an extra 2 games after that, and then the Baltimore Ravens organization eventually suspended him for the year and released him. And, another Ravens running back, Bernard Pierce, got in trouble. And so now they're down from 2 of the 3 running backs that were on the top of the depth chart from last season, or that were supposed to be at the beginning of last season. Now they have one, Justin Forsett, who they actually signed. And also to mention the whole case with Richie Incognito and, Martin on the Dolphins, who's now on the 49ers. That case was another example of what's expected of NFL players. It seems like the NFL expects these players to be, just completely violent buffoons who could just do whatever they want and get away with it because they're bigger, stronger than most, normal humans. And that shouldn't have to be the case. You should hold these players to a higher standard of conduct. The NBA does it. The NFL just use their popularity as leverage, really. The NFL is popular, so there's nothing that can taint our image. And you know what? They're kind of right, because no matter what happens, no matter, what the players are doing, no matter what the league is doing, people are still going to watch the games on Sunday, Monday nights, and Thursday nights. So it really, really doesn't matter, because the NFL knows that its popularity is not going down anytime soon. And then they also proposed having a Pro Bowl game. They actually proposed having the 2017 NFL Pro Bowl in Brazil. So that just proves to you that they really don't. They're just brushing this off as nothing, and they're really just trying to think about making more money, expanding, becoming more international. They already have games in London every year, so that's all they care about. And I understand the NFL is a business, and it's all about money, and it seems like the players aren't really a priority for this league. It really does, and it pains me because I'm a huge fan of the NFL, of the sport. Really, I'm a huge fan of the sport, and what the NFL is doing to these players is really kind of sickening. They go on and have these ads of these former players and well, I don't know about if the celebrities have anything to do with the ad. I don't know if it's an NFL ad or not, but we all seen them during the games where they say no more, no more, no more, and so you have these football players and they're saying no more, no more, and then if the channel Billy Mays, we go into this year's offseason, but wait, there's more. Now we have this whole thing with Darren Sharper and Bernard Pierce and all this stuff. Now, obviously, it's not, sexual assault, but it still has to do with conduct. Sexual assault is that is a subject of, detrimental conduct. And, it's really sickening. It's this whole thing about macho-ness. And baseball is not, the sport of baseball really doesn't have to do with being tough or being macho. It has to really do with just having a particular skill, whether it be throwing, or pitching, I should say, or throwing, being able to run bases well, being able to have a good eye when you're at the plate. That's really what the sport of baseball is all about. And also, they play mostly every day, like I mentioned before, so they might not be able to do as many things during the week. And it seems like NBA players are probably the most disciplined athletes amongst the professional ranks in major American sports. There's a few isolated cases now and then, Javaris Crittenton and Gilbert Arenas with the gun charge, and Kobe Bryant early in his career with his case. But for the most part, it seems like NBA players are probably the most disciplined. Now baseball. Obviously, baseball we have to talk about the thing with Josh Hamilton and his relapse and going back into rehab and being got rid of by the Rangers. Well, actually, I'm not sure if the Rangers got rid of him or not, but he's not going to be playing this year or for most of this year, to be safe. And obviously, baseball also has a thing with the steroids, and performance-enhancing drugs. So that right there automatically does not make Major League Baseball the cleanest league. It's not. The NBA is probably the league that runs the cleanest. Although people are going to say NBA is rigged or whatever. People say every sport is rigged. I'm not even going to mention that. But, in basketball and NBA, you rarely see players get in trouble off the court. You don't really hear that term off the court. You don't hear that term that often when it comes to, negative things necessarily about the NBA. It's a clean sport. There's no accusations of anybody taking steroids or any kind of drugs. There's very few players that are really detrimental. The players that are usually detrimental to NBA locker rooms are the players that are cocky and arrogant and really care more about themselves. Carmelo Anthony is an example of that. I'm not going to say that that's for certain, but from what people have seen and from what I've seen with the way he plays, it seems like he's very, self-centered. But that's the only real issue you ever see in the NBA. That's the only thing that ever messes up locker rooms. In the NFL, you see that too, but you also see players who sell drugs and rape women and do all these heinous acts. But because they're NFL players, it's expected, and they get a free pass. Like, oh, you play NFL, I don't want you to hurt me. So, and they probably maybe the players do this. Maybe it's because of the way they were raised. Maybe it's because the NFL just expects it. Maybe these players are trying to send a message to the NFL saying we're doing these bad things, but you're not doing anything about it. This also falls a little bit on the NFL Players Association. They need to tell Goodell, this is not acceptable behavior. Roger Goodell keeps saying this isn't acceptable behavior, but yet this isn't acceptable behavior, but yet this behavior is still happening. Now with the Darren Sharper thing, obviously this case has been going for a long time. It's not even in NFL's hands anymore. Same thing with the Aaron Hernandez thing, but and it seems like in order for players to receive proper discipline or to receive proper punishment, it has to be the job of the actual team, the franchise that they play for, rather than the league that overlooks all this stuff. So, and this right here really proves to you that the NFL is really just putting on a mask, saying, oh, we care about the safety of these players, and yet I'm not going to say they forced, but it made a young 24-year-old player to retire early in only his first season, which harks back on my first topic. So, I know I'm talking about a lot. I'm not talking a lot about the NFL here in this March Madness or whatever, but we could talk about March Madness for days. So I'm trying to branch out a little bit, talk about multiple sports. When around Final Four time, around the time of the championship, I'm sure that I'll be able to dive in and be able to give you something when that happens. Even though it's a Sweet 16 NCAA, it's still early. So I won't be able to go into it as much. But right now we're sticking for the NFL, and this, and also we have to talk about Adrian Peterson, his child abuse case. I don't know if he's going to be back with the Vikings. Some people say he was going to go back to the Cardinals. He had no interest in the Cardinals. The Dallas Cowboys was an option. That's his hometown team, and they had no interest in signing him. And this really proves to you that the organization, this franchise's job really to do something, because it seems like the man up top, the big brother, is not. They don't care. They're not really a big brother. They're not doing anything to discipline these players. So that's what I have to say about this case. And we're gonna switch gears a little bit. The third thing I'll talk about today, and the last thing I'll talk about today, will be I'll throw some NBA in there, and we will be right back with more Bill and Bob, or I guess you could say the Rob Bias Show, whatever you want for today. But we will be right back.